I had been pleased to have a small dishwasher and a good heater after not having those items for years. But we have stopped using the dishwasher and we go without heat at night in hopes of lowering our electric bill. I hate to think how high the electric bills for all of us would get if you allow the world's largest private equity firm, Blackstone, to buy TXNM Energy. With Blackstone being the world's largest private equity firm, and with their track record of maximizing returns at the expense of working people in frontline communities, one does not need to read about their water-draining data centers, or their housing crisis profiteering, or their use of child labor in slaughterhouses. It is easy to realize Blackstone sees only dollar signs in New Mexico. They do not see the 550,000 PNM customers. They do not see the thousands of miles of transmission lines to upkeep, or the serious challenges of climate change. They envision profiting at the expense of New Mexicans. Wole Soyinka, the Nigerian writer who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986, believes a tiger does not proclaim its tigritude, it pounces. Well, Blackstone sees New Mexicans as its next meal, and it is ready to pounce, but you can stop it. Please say no to allowing Blackstone to acquire TXNM Energy. Protect New Mexicans from dangerous profiteers. There are much better options for our state. Thank you.
Next, we have Elizabeth Burlett.
Hi, my name is Isabel Barlett. I have been a resident of New Mexico for 30 years, and with luck, I will be a resident for another couple of decades. I'm here to urge you to vote against the acquisition of PNM by the subsidiary Blackstone. It just seems clear to me that the combination of a private equity company fiercely focused on profit and return, combined with captive customers of a public utility, is a recipe for disaster. I think it's a decision, if you approve this, that we will be paying for decades to come. I think we can anticipate huge rate increases. As someone who has solar power, I don't anticipate that would affect me as much as others, but I'm concerned about my neighbors who don't have the option of having solar power. I also believe that if this acquisition happens, Blackstone would be in a great position to use their wealth to lobby aggressively for the construction of data centers, which in and of itself I don't think is necessarily of benefit to New Mexico and to New Mexicans. I'm ashamed to say I own shares of Blackstone. I feel strongly enough about this that I've decided, despite my investment tripling over the time I've had those shares, that I am going to divest myself of that investment. And my investment manager said something really interesting to me today that I didn't know. He said, companies like Berkshire Hathaway invest hoping to get a return in 20 to 30 years. Blackstone, he told me, invests expecting to get a return on their investment in 2 to 3 years. So if you approve this, I think things are going to happen big, and they're going to happen fast, and they are going to extract wealth from New Mexican resources and New Mexicans. So I urge you to vote no on this acquisition.
Thank you. Next is Paul Kinzelman.
Airline transport pilot and engineer.
I'm sorry, sir, if you could use the microphone.
I'm going to solve the microphone problem. I kneel before you. I'd like to suggest another perspective than others have done. Private ownership is inherently monopolistic. Entities companies whose only goal is profit is a terrible model. A public necessity like electricity should not be run by a private company because they care only about squeezing every last penny out of their customers. Citizens' needs are simply not relevant no matter what they claim. Free market competition is impractical because you can't have multiple companies each running their own power lines. A private company must be heavily regulated to limit its greed. But even better would be to not have them private in the first place. Critical utilities, which now include the internet and life and death services, should not be privately owned. The proper metric for this kind of company is quality of service, not profit. Remember that some of the fires that devastated California recently were in large part due to private electric companies cutting expenses to maximize profit. Profit-motivated monopolies that own life-saving products can raise prices based only on profit considerations. The life-saving EpiPen is the poster child of the problem. A company took over distribution rights for a device that delivered $1 dose of the drug with a device manufacturing cost of $10, and they increased the price over $600. People die when this happens, but private companies don't care. Same thing happened with insulin. If they can't afford insulin, they die. So the proposal before the PRC is to change the TNM from being run by a company based in New Mexico whose officers live in our community to a faceless out-of-state corporation with no ties to New Mexico. Their track record of doing this sort of thing to other communities is abysmal. The fig leaf of their colorful slides and glossy brochures can't hide the damage they have done with similar purchases elsewhere. This sale would be a travesty and a huge leap in the wrong direction. You would be taking a bad model, private ownership, making it much worse, private out-of-state ownership. At the very least, guaranteeing them a profit of 10% is outrageous, should be eliminated. We should be talking about public ownership, not selling it to someone else. For a deeper background on this sort of thing, please read Dennis Kucinich's book called Division of Light and Power, about his experience as mayor fighting to keep Cleveland's electric utility publicly owned at far lower rates than if the power company were privatized. Thanks.
Thank you. Next we have Lisa Perlato.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Lisa Parlato, and I'm an Albuquerque resident and PNM customer ratepayer, and I'm a retired social worker. I want to elaborate a little bit on Blackstone's horrendous labor violations so that people know exactly what they're dealing with. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, in 2023, the Packers Sanitation Services Incorporated, or PSSI, which is a company that's been owned by Blackstone Incorporated since 2018, was found to have illegally employed more than 100 minors aged 13 through 17 years of age to work in hazardous occupations in 13 meat processing facilities in 8 states, some on overnight shifts. PSSI had these miners working with hazardous chemicals, cleaning meat processing equipment that included back saws, brisket saws, head splitters, and other razor-sharp implements. The Department of Labor investigators learned that at least 3 miners suffered injuries while working with PSSI, which eventually was made to pay $1.5 million in civil money penalties for these employment violations. In 2022, the Private Equity Stakeholder Project, which is a nonprofit watchdog organization focused on the growing private equity and broader private funds industry, released a report entitled Profit Over Safety, Private Equity's Leveraged Bet on Packers Sanitation, which detailed that since 2018, the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, has conducted investigations of at least 4 amputations and 3 fatalities at PSSI employees, including a decapitation. While Blackstone labels this watchdog group a fringe bias anti-private equity shell group, as of February 2024, the Department of Labor continues to find labor violation at Blackstone's PSSI work sites. As of January of last year, PSSI has been rebranded as Fortex, and currently Blackstone is moving to relinquish its equity interests in PSSI, due to severe financial distress, reputational risks, and ongoing controversies. So there it is, folks. Vile and contemptible labor decisions made by PSSI that has happened on Blackstone's watch. It's important to emphasize that these violations are more than just mere mistakes. Do not minimize, justify, or excuse Blackstone's actions. PSSI made a conscious choice to illegally employ the aforementioned minors and Blackstone Incorporated either through willful misconduct, gross negligence, or outright incompetence, and despite its abundance of lawyers, advisors, and money, violated the law and placed workers in harm's way, all while collecting lucrative process. Folks, these egregious labor violations only serve as a reliable indicator of future conduct by Blackstone. If Blackstone can willfully disregard the safety of children, it cannot be trusted in their promises to treat New Mexico constituents and PNM customer ratepayers honestly. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Melissa Lane, and please try to stick to the 2-minute timeline. And I do have a member of our general counsel here to help us make sure that we stick to that, and we want to make sure that we get as many comments as possible. Melissa, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Melissa Lane. I'm not an expert on corporate finance or utility mergers, and I don't pretend to be. But I do believe that I'm a good judge of character and intent, and I know nonsense when I see it. I know when something doesn't sit right. I'm a lifelong resident of New Mexico. This decision affects my neighbors, my family, and friends, my community. Decisions about it should be made with long-term public interest in mind, not short-term profit. This proposed acquisition by Blackstone raises serious concerns about accountability, transparency, and whose interests will truly come first once control leaves local hands. I strongly oppose the proposed acquisition of PNM by Blackstone because it threatens New Mexico families and our local economy. PNM provides electricity, a basic necessity, to approximately 2/3 of New Mexico households and many small businesses. This trillion-dollar company's focus is to maximize returns, not to prioritize affordable rates for local families. When Blackstone takes over, profit will come before people, and rates will increase. A relevant example is Puget Sound Energy, a Washington-based utility acquired by a private equity firm similar to BlackRock. Following the takeover, residential electricity rates increased about 50%. I want to lay out a few relevant facts. Steven Schwartzman, the CEO of Blackstone, has an estimated net worth of $44.9 billion. Blackstone, along BlackRock, and I'm including BlackRock in this because BlackRock is the main shareholder of Blackstone, together roughly manage $15 trillion in assets worldwide. That's trillion. Blackstone's existing and planned energy acquisitions so far affect 8 U.S. states: New Mexico, Texas, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, and Minnesota. At what point does this level of control begin to resemble a monopoly? Are we comfortable with one company controlling so much of the U.S. energy system? I'm going to start speaking faster. PNM is currently regulated by the New Mexico
I'm sorry,
Public
ma'am. I'm trying to write it down, so
Okay.
please don't.
New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, which has oversight over rates and service quality. Under private equity ownership, there's concern about transparency and accountability. It will be harder for regulators and the public to monitor service quality, enforce standards, and ensure fair outcomes. Will the regulators have the political will and resources to stand up to such a powerful financial owner? Local control and community values matter. PNM has long been headquartered in New Mexico with local management, workforce, and community ties. Private equity ownership will reduce local control and redirect priorities in ways that don't reflect New Mexico's community needs. I urge the New Mexico Public Regulation Committee to put ratepayers and public interests first. This decision is irreversible. Once approved, there's no going back. Thank you.
Next, we have Mark Pierce.
Thanks very much, Thaddeus. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Pierce. I'm a husband, a father, a neurologist, and fourth generation New Mexican. I came to ask, cui bono, who benefits? When has granting more resource access to billionaires ever helped anyone? New Mexico has a robust and admirable history of keeping people out of our business. We take care of ourselves and our neighbors, and this has always been a part of Med's strengths. We stand here poised to open our home to one of the worst landlords in the world, a more than $1 trillion private equity firm that has done nothing but suck the value out of everything it touches. A company with $85 billion in AI data centers, a bubble waiting to burst at any moment, a vile misstep in human technological advance that rapes the land and water and electricity while further enfranchising the 10 richest people on the planet. When did it become policy that we comply in advance, that we so willingly offer the virgin to the dragon, we fling the doors wide to the vampires? Our energy prices may increase either way. It is the purview of any company to update its own infrastructure, and today is not about PNM's monopoly, in my opinion. And it is about not selling that monopoly to a close personal friend of Donald Trump, with a zero stake in life and livelihood of people who actually live and raise their families here. A couple examples. During a severe drought in Palm Springs between 2010 and 2011, Blackstone CEO Stephen Schwarzman personally used 7,500,000 gallons of water, which is about 70 times the local average. Local laws in England had to be written so that he would stop stealing water from a drought-stricken area to put on tanker ships to fill a lake on his private estate. I might also note that his name comes up in the Epstein files 176 times. The money and power of this company, the person steering it, are so immense that you do not exist to them. Your entire life, your hopes and dreams, value to your community, to your friends and family are replaceable in literally a second. His personal net worth is about half of our state's GDP. So, who benefits? Maybe a few local C-suite millionaires get a brief seat at the table with their new friends, the richest people on earth, but our beautiful state and the people who live here are on the menu. Thank you.
Thanks. Next we have Mooney Ulasing.
Hello. Hi guys, thank you. My name is Mooney. I was born and raised. Oh, terrifying. I was born and raised in Albuquerque. I'm a teacher. I have 2 small children. I haven't had to learn a great deal while researching Blackstone. What I realized fundamentally was that Blackstone is an enormous multinational corporation specializing in energy infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and water and waste management, with an AUM, or an assets under management, of an approximate 1.3 trillion valuation. A corporation this size is unstoppable. Blackstone does not care about New Mexico. They're a multinational corporation based in New York with huge shareholders all around the world. In 2025, they made $14.45 billion, which means in 2 minutes, approximately, I'm supposed to speak here, they will have made $54,000, which is more than I make in 2 years. I read about the TXNM sales at Blackstone on the internet, and it sounded like a pretty good deal. $105 million in energy credit, $35 million to Phoenix Neighbor Fund. I did the math. Blackstone will make that money in 3.5 days, and that's how long my corporation needs to raise the revenue so they can buy out our right to have a say in our energy grid, in our energy future. Why do they want to buy it? Why would they want to own our energy infrastructure? They specialize in energy infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and waste and water management. These things taken together make this acquisition very dangerous for us. There's an infrastructure industry website, hedgeco.net, and they say, quote, and they're very happy about this, quote, data centers are powering Blackstone's $1.3 trillion investment engine. They're bragging about it. Blackstone's acquisition of TXNM would facilitate taking water from our aquifers at rates ranging from 20,000 to 5 million gallons of water per day. We live in a desert. Rio Grande already runs dry every summer. They want to bring data centers here to suck our rivers and aquifers dry, and they aren't even applying for permits to microgrids to power future data centers. They hope this would allow them to avoid state oversight, which would in turn allow them to pump as much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere as Albuquerque and Las Cruces combined, while simultaneously draining our aquifers. Please, don't sell our beautiful land to Blackstone. Thank you.
Next, we have Kim Kaler.
Taylor.
Kaler.
I oppose the Blackstone purchase, and I do relinquish my 2 minutes to the next.
Thank you. Randy Colvin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have copies for the record and for the commissioners. Members of the commission, New Mexico's history is a map of scars created by a repeating cycle of exploitation. It began with the uranium boom, then the oil and gas era, where the same pattern of energy colonialism extracted billions in wealth while designating our rural and indigenous communities as sacrifice zones for toxic waste and pollution. Today we see this same thread being pulled into renewable energy transition. Local investors have viewed our land only as a resource to be harvested, leaving New Mexico empty-handed once the boom fades. The proposed sale of PNM to Blackstone is the next chapter in this history of extraction. For a century, our state has been treated as a resource colony, with our rural and indigenous communities left with the environmental debt, polluted groundwater, toxic produced water, designated sacrifice zones. We are told this is the price of prosperity, yet New Mexico remains one of the poorest states. These same global entities are shifting their gaze to our wind and sun. They call it clean energy, but without local ownership, it's merely green colonialism. We see projects where our sacred landscapes are treated as thoroughfares for electrons destined for California and Arizona, leaving the Mexicans with visual impact and land disruption, but none of the sovereignty. A clean electron is not automatically a just electron. This commission previously rejected Avangrid because corporate character is a material risk. An absentee landlord model of utility ownership is fundamentally incompatible with the ethical obligations we owe to our vulnerable populations. If we allow a global firm to siphon our utility profits into Wall Street dividends, we are merely repeating the resource curse of the oil era. The measure of our success is not just how much carbon we remove from the air, but how much sovereignty and wealth we retain on the ground. We must reject this sale and instead pursue a justice model, one built on transparency, beneficial ownership, and a transition to publicly owned power. Let us finally break the golden handcuffs and ensure that New Mexico's energy future belongs to New Mexicans. Thank you.
Next we have Jade Wasco.
Good afternoon. My name is Jade Wasco. My partner Noelle and I live in Northeast Albuquerque. We have both lived here all our lives, and we intend to continue building our futures here. As New Mexicans, we are used to being seen as no one's first priority. We are used to being seen as an empty desert that is only good for extracting resources or serving as a dumping ground. A Blackstone buyout of PNM will only continue this pattern. As an out-of-state private equity firm, I do not trust that Blackstone is interested in working to uphold the values of New Mexico, to seeing us as partners, or to treating our communities worthy of dignity, respect, and voice. As they have shown in their actions in other sectors and other states, their priority is clearly only maximizing profits, no matter who is hurt. That is the opposite of what our state needs. We need companies committed to building with us. public institutions committed to investing in projects that will improve our neighborhoods, not fill the pockets of some wealthy executives who see our delicate ecosystems and resilient communities as resources to exploit for profit. My family is not interested in minuscule short-term rate credits now, only to be gouged with no recourse for the rest of time we live here. I urge P&M to reject this acquisition.
Okay, next we have Jonathan Juarez.
Can you hear me okay?
No, you gotta press
There's a button on the bottom there.
There you go.
Hello?
There you go.
There we go. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jonathan Juarez, and I'm here tonight as a P&M ratepayer and someone who hopes to one day raise a family here in my hometown. I'm here tonight to tell you, Commissioners, that this decision should not be made based on vague business promises or temporary credits. It must be made based on who Blackstone is and how it operates, and what consistently happens when it gains control over the things that people depend on. Blackstone is not in the business of public service. It is in the business of acquiring essential assets, restructuring them to extract predictable returns, and insulating investors from risk. That model depends on scale, leverage, and control, not on long-term accountability to the public. And that model leaves a clear record. Across the country, Blackstone's growth has relied on corporate structures, internal self-dealing, and financial engineering that shields executives while shifting risk onto workers, customers, and communities. Transparency declines, oversight becomes harder, and accountability is buried under layers of subsidiaries and affiliates. These are not isolated issues. They are structural features of how private equity operates. Across sectors, the same outcomes repeat. Decision-making moves farther away from the people affected. Public accountability weakens, and pressure intensifies to prioritize financial performance over human need. These outcomes aren't accidental. They are the predictable results of incentives that reward extraction and penalize restraint. Utilities like P&M are especially vulnerable to this model. Customers can't opt out. They cannot shop elsewhere when rates rise or service declines. That is why utility regulation exists, to prevent exactly this kind of concentration of power. This acquisition asks you to believe that despite history, incentives, and structure, this time will be different. The public is here tonight, and we are not persuaded by that argument. The record before you shows overwhelming opposition from New Mexicans who understand what is at stake. This is not confusion or fear of change. It is informed resistance to a proposal that imposes permanent risk in exchange for temporary relief. Under our own laws here in New Mexico, this commission is required to reject transactions that do not affirmatively serve the public interest, and this acquisition fails that standard.
I want to thank you very much for your comment, but your time has expired. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Please, none of that. Next, we have Zoe Kraft. Do we have Zoe Kraft? Oh.
Hi, good evening, members of the commission. My name is Zoe Kraft, and I am here today as an Albuquerque resident and a P&M customer to urge the commission to reject Blackstone's proposed acquisition of P&M. As one of the largest private equity firms in the world, Blackstone's main priority is not to protect and support New Mexican ratepayers. Instead, it's to create profits for their investors. And across the country, we've already seen how these profits are generated through housing shortages and rent increases that hiked rent costs for tenants of their San Diego rental units by an average of 38%, the expansion of AI data centers and water-intensive projects that would drain our desert's scarce water resources, and false climate solutions designed to extend the life of extractive industry. As a 24-year-old living in Albuquerque, I wonder whether I will be able to afford to continue living in the community that raised me. Like many young people my age, I already worry about balancing rising rent payments, educational debt, and the increasing costs of basic necessities. And when utility bills rise on top of these existing pressures, it forces students and families in my community to make impossible choices between essentials like groceries, housing, or keeping the lights on. My life and family are here in New Mexico, but decisions like this one directly determine whether young people like me can afford to stay, work, and build a future in our state. If this deal goes through, young people like myself will face the consequences for years, from skyrocketing utility rates that make it more difficult to stay afloat, to decisions about our lives and futures made behind closed doors by billionaires with no requirement for transparency or accountability, and an energy system tied to extractive industry that is worsening the climate crisis and impacts communities across the state already facing its impacts, from historic drought to devastating wildfires and floods. Young people and community members across New Mexico shouldn't pay more so that billionaires can profit, and I urge you to reject this proposed acquisition to protect ratepayers across the state and keep our energy system in the hands of the people who live here, not wealthy out-of-state investors hoping to cash in on control of our most basic resources. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Zephyr Jaramillo.
And I'm here to tell you to reject the proposed acquisition of PNM by Blackstone. I'm 23 years old, a resident of so-called New Mexico all of my life, and a ratepayer of about 5 years. To put this plainly, and as you've already heard, Blackstone is the largest private equity firm in the world. And this means that at the end of the day, their core purpose is to make the most profit back for their investors. The way that this would be done is through price gouging us with high rates, even though many of us are already struggling to keep the lights on. That is what it looks like to perpetuate profit over people. Any decision that is made about our ability to survive because power is a basic need should be in the hands of the people that live here, not Blackstone billionaires who have their hands in other energy extractive industries such as data centers. I want to be clear that this is not only a threat to just our energy future, but to communities that are already experiencing the disproportionate impacts of the climate crisis as well. And besides having financial ties to the egregious use of child labor, Blackstone has also invested in technologies that facilitate suffering, specifically through Palantir, which is a Zionist-designed technology that surveils and tracks Palestinians, as well as our immigrant relatives here in this so-called country. For all of this, and the bottom line that our future is not for sale, do not allow this acquisition to go through. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for... Please, especially somebody over there in that corner, let's please not react and allow people to provide their comments. Next we have Alicia Gallegos.
Okay. Guatsi, I'm Alicia Gallegos from the pueblos of Acoma and Laguna. However, I reside in Albuquerque and I am a ratepayer to PNM. I am 24 years old and I work as the climate justice organizer for Pueblo Action Alliance. As Pueblo Action Alliance, a Pueblo indigenous grassroots organization based in Albuquerque, but whose staff and board come from the various 19 sovereign Pueblo tribes, we as an organization are asking that our PRC decision makers reject Blackstone's application to acquire our public utility PNM. We know that Blackstone is a global private equity firm, the largest in the world, managing over $1 trillion in assets that do not have public interest in mind. Blackstone owns and invests in data centers in and out of the country, energy infrastructure companies, surveillance technologies, and is the single largest landlord in the so-called US. This business model is not fit for sustaining life anywhere, especially in New Mexico, where our natural resources are already overexploited and everyday working class people struggle to make ends meet. A corporate takeover by private equity of PNM would only guarantee an increase in unaffordable bills and rate hikes, as well as less accountability to ratepayers. Blackstone is not fit for this acquisition. Their priority is to make sure they buy up assets, extract profits, and deliver high returns to their investors. Is this the future you want for New Mexico? PNM also serves and is accountable to 8 sovereign Pueblo tribes: Tesuque, Cochiti, Kiowa, San Felipe, Santa Ana, Isleta, Sandia, and Laguna. So it is of utmost importance that you commissioners engage with tribal leaders regarding this transaction so that they have free and prior informed consent. We need to prioritize protecting our communities, environment, and future from Blackstone billionaires. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Naya Anlo Valdo.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Naya Valdo, and I live in Albuquerque, and I'm a PNM ratepayer. I am here today because I am in opposition of Blackstone's application to acquire PNM and TXNM. Blackstone, which you've already heard a lot of times, is the world's largest alternative asset manager, and they have invested billions of dollars into data centers and data center operating companies. New Mexico already is facing extreme water insecurity and lack of clean water, and we definitely do not have enough resources to sustain more data centers in our communities. Blackstone has made no commitments to transparency throughout the process of this acquisition, and there has been no commitment to reliability or affordability once this happens. Blackstone has also been reluctant to give out information that is publicly accessible. As a tribal member of the Pueblo of Acoma, a community who has been continuously harmed by extractive industries and environmental injustice, we know this cycle all too well, and we've seen it many times before. I am here today to let you all know that we will not allow private equity to extract from our homelands. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, can you please let's create a comfortable environment where we can hear people's comments. Next, we have Ted Allen.
Have been eloquently addressed by other speakers, so I relinquish my time.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Skylar Sargent.
Good afternoon. Hello, commissioners. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Skylar Sargent, and I serve as Vice President and Property Manager of the Indian Public Cultural Center. I'm here today to support the proposed Blackstone acquisition of PNM. As the property manager oversees over 90 acres campus with more than 600,000 square feet of facilities in the heart of Albuquerque, my team and I experience realities of aging PNM infrastructure and challenges of limited resources on a daily basis. Throughout this process, PNM has consistently welcomed input from the business community, tribal leaders, and the PNM Leadership Council, of which I am a member of. Their openness has helped us ensure we understand the process, the potential benefits, and what an investment from Blackstone could bring. New Mexico is ready for thoughtful, strategic investment. We believe that investing in PNM is investing in New Mexico's communities, large and small. It represents a commitment to partnership, collaboration, and trust, all in which are core values on the campus of the Indian Public Cultural Center. PNM has long been an essential partner in work we do on the behalf of the 19 public communities, and we hope to review committee hearing community examples of their ongoing positive impacts, impacts that can grow with this investment. PNM currently has a Pueblo Educational Endorsement Scholarship, which has awarded over $1 million in scholarships to Pueblo students. Their energy efficiency rebates program, which has directly benefited our campus through LED lighting upgrades. We trust that Blackstone Infrastructure will continue to invest in New Mexico while honoring its commitment to keep PNM orders in the state, maintaining local leadership and jobs, and supporting New Mexico's transition to clean energy technologies. We urge those in the regulation review process to evaluate this acquisition as a long-term accountability investment that strengthens oversight while bringing much-needed modernization to our energy infrastructure. New Mexico cannot afford to fall behind. This proposal provides the resources, stability, and commitment required to meet today's demand and tomorrow's opportunities.
I want to thank you very much for your comment. Your time is
Awesome.
good.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Jean Crawford. Jean Crawford.
Which side of the room?
Thank you. I voted for some of you, but it's nice to actually be in the room with you. So my name is Jean Crawford. I've lived in New Mexico since 1989. I recently had a chance to buy my first house. I'm very glad it has solar panels. I am concerned that I am paying for the maintenance on those for other people to make money off my power, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to voice my opposition to the acquisition of PNM by Blackstone. Utilities should be publicly owned, and this situation only puts a further spotlight on that need. Stone kills everything it buys. After being bought out by private equity, my niece's electric bill in New Jersey went up 400%. Blackstone is a rapacious, vampiric predator and no friend to New Mexicans. They are colonizers here to steal our resources, our money, and our standard of living. They don't care if we die in the dark or of heat exhaustion because we can't pay their rates. They don't care if small businesses, the foundation of our economy, close because they can't afford to pay for the electricity they need to stay open. They do not care. They will extract value, leave us in ruins, and go away. Blackstone is too big to be able to be regulated by the PRC. Say no to this buyout. It's bad for me, it's bad for you, and it's bad for New Mexico. And quite frankly, if you vote to approve it, you will have betrayed us all.
Next, we have Joe Mumley.
Tasha. Testing. I was sitting here just thinking that really my whole life I've been, or corporations have been out to get me. I'm not paranoid. My first job was Johns Manville Asbestos Factory, where they knew they were killing everyone who worked there part-time and didn't say anything. Anyway, I spent my life trying to make this a better world. I worked with the homeless in the South Bronx, retired to Albuquerque, and was discouraged to hear that my first news about private equity was they have bought enough houses and apartment buildings to increase homelessness all over the country and double the number in Albuquerque. So the CEOs of these corporations, most of them don't care about us. They grew up in a culture that didn't provide any love, and that void was filled with power, and that's the game they're playing. Is nothing but destruction. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Kathleen Burke. Kathleen Burke. Oh, right there.
Hi, gentlemen. Welcome to Albuquerque. Senator Nybert, welcome. I am in agreement by and large with everything spoken here about opposing this acquisition. There's one thing that hasn't been mentioned that I would like to add, however, and maybe you've heard about this. In Albuquerque, we've had this massive buy-up by private equity firms of veterinary services. And this is happening in real time. What we're seeing happen is veterinary services have, in some cases, quadrupled in cost, tripled in cost. And it's not just some of the veterinary services, it's most all of them. And so what's happening is people can't find veterinary care for their pets. And sadly, what's happening is people are having to relinquish their pets to the pound because they simply cannot provide medical care to their beloved pets. This is real. This is happening. This is private equity culture. This is how they do things. You've heard that from many people here today. So I'll send you information to your emails as my comments, and you can have a look at that yourself. It's a very, very sad situation. And I'm afraid it just could be a harbinger of what we might see happen in this case. And by the way, I'm a 25-year customer of the PRC. Excuse me, of PNM. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your comment.
Yep.
Sir, can you please not react to other people's comments?
Yeah, what they're saying, Gabriel.
Okay. So I think right now, I'd like to get the sir standing over there in the purple shirt to stop reacting to people's comments. We're going to pause for 5 minutes and then we can come back. I'm
a single parent all the time. Can I give my comments?
Well,
Because I'm also on call.
We'll listen to this comment and then if it continues, then we'll pause. So please step up to the microphone and.
Yeah, because I also am on call for a hospital in Prescott. Heather Cunningham, CONY and GHAM. You got it? Weird spelling. Yeah, hard to be a single parent, isn't it? Thank you guys for holding this hearing. A lot of people have said this more eloquently than I'm going to be saying it, but private equity should not be in public utilities. We don't have the water infrastructure for these guys coming in and making data centers. And that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, so now we'll pause for 10 minutes and then we can come back.
Sasha. Sasha. Sasha.
What? I think you would find socks. Let's go. A bit too cold.
Honey, I turned it off just in case. Honey, I turned it off just in case. Bye.
Can folks mute themselves? Thank you.
Hoot. But they're in recess.
He's also the guy who opened the.
Since they're in recess, I think should be able to speak among ourselves.
This is my husband, and we've been here since. Yes.
Hello? Let's everybody walk at once. How about we just throw a whole bunch of ideas out there? Everybody say no, let's say no.
I just joined the meeting. Can someone bring me up to speed?
Why can't those of us that are online give public comment? Have we been blocked?
I believe they go through the people who are in the room first, and then they go to Zoom. You had to call in if you were going to be on Zoom to be able to make a comment. So I encourage you to, if you want to do that and you didn't do that, look in the chat and they tell you how you can submit your online comment.
Thank you for answering that. Yeah, I'm used to public hearings with like Representative Matthew McQueen and being able to speak.
From the information I got, that was not made
for. I did sign up, so I'm
the
hoping
information that I got, that was
Thank
not
you,
made
Kathy.
clear. And the link that I've been clicking on in the chat, it's not very clear on how to do it.
No, somebody did put it in there. I was having a hard time too. Somebody put it in there and we're very specific how to do it, and it did finally work. You don't have to create an account.
Well, everything that I wanted to say has already been said.
So it's so much. They told me because I registered online, they were just getting Here you go. Yeah, major links review. Yeah, it's pretty cool all the time. That was nice. Still like a shoot. We would sit there and actually like Aaron, yes, what a great plan. But they basically said that because we're getting rid of things, that's short term. It's the way that they're pretty so you really have to look at certain standards. We didn't have I know when I work with Fed even. I'm trying not to get with all the game.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started again, please. So I do have a few announcements. We have a lot of people here, and we have some people on Zoom. And for those of you on Zoom, I think we have to prioritize the people who came in here in person. I want to clarify that we will have other opportunities for comment. People can comment online at our front page. There's a banner that you can click on to our PRC E360, and we have a new system that makes it very easy to provide written public comments. We accept public comment at our open meetings, so we have a public comment session at every open meeting. And also, before we are done today, I want to have a conversation with my fellow commissioners about one, potentially adding more public comment after our open meeting that will be in this room next Thursday. And then just gauging by the size of your engagement, which is great to see, we can add another public comment session as well if needed. And so we also have people standing in the hallway waiting. We do have a few empty seats in the front. I don't know if people out there can hear me, but we do have a few empty seats. Not a requirement, but if you have provided public comment and you want to allow somebody out there to come in, they'd be able to do that. So if you give them your seat. Did I forget anything? Okay. So we'll go ahead and keep going with our public comments, and really want to hear what you have to say. As I remarked earlier during our introduction, we asked, please no reacting to somebody else's comments, even if it's after. If it happens again, we'll pause again. So please don't do that. Let's just allow people to provide their public comment. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your cooperation. So next person we have, this one's hard to read, I'm sorry. First name starts with a D and last name is Bailey? Yes. Thank you.
All I can say is thank you for the opportunity to present, and I would implore you to vote no on this acquisition. Blackstone has a track record that nobody would want to hold, but they do, and they continue then to extract and penalize everybody across the country for their greed and their desire for wealth. This is not a good acquisition for New Mexico or PNM, in spite of the little blurbs that they put in it that they were going to do this and this. I see that as a black hole. And so I would implore you to vote no on this acquisition. Thank you.
Next we have Pat Lawrence.
So thank you for the opportunity to come before you. I'm a third generation New Mexican, lived here, APS, UNM, and I'm against this acquisition. I hope you all can see the community is very against it. Time after time after time after time, private equity companies fail to do what they say they're going to do. I know in this state we have significant regulations on rates and things like that. There's other ways that these companies will just make their profit. There's worse reliability, less safety, environmental violations, and not only that, but the difficulty in regulating them. Their finances are very, very opaque. Layer and layer and layer of things going on. What is their 10% profit? Oh, do they really do that? I mean, they are sophisticated thieves. Don't let them make their profit off of us. So
thank you for your comment, sir. Next we have Ian Gonzalez.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'm here before you today as much out of curiosity as out of concern. Namely, when was the last time that some spiffy Wall Street execs entered New Mexico with a deal that was genuinely beneficial for all of your constituents? Blackstone has done extremely detrimental things to the real estate market, disenfranchising middle and low income households and family members who hope to build a life here, and making sure that they are priced out of any opportunity to own land in an effort like their competitors to trap people in an endless cycle of rent. They see it as extraction, as many of my cohorts have already pointed out so elegantly. At the risk of being dramatic, there's a quote that comes to mind. What's he then that says I play the villain when this advice is free, I give, and honest? These words are 400 years old, and they were spoken by one of the most contemptuous villains in all of European literature, Iago, someone who I think would be right at home on a VP board for Blackstone. So I urge you all to reject this acquisition of PNM by Blackstone. Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And I'm just curious how many times we have to see the same story play out. That's about all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Next we have Sherman McCorkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. I'm Sherman McCorkle. I too am a native New Mexican. My family's been here for multiple generations. I'm here on behalf of the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce. I've worked for the last 45 years in job creation and economic development in New Mexico. I worked really hard in creating the Borealis Economic Opportunity Center, more recently in standing up the Sandia Science and Technology Park. I've worked with over 250 startup companies in New Mexico, frequently a family that has taken a second mortgage on their house to start up a company. Without fail, none of these would have been successful if it hadn't have been for out-of-state private equity investing in these startup companies in New Mexico. Private equity from California, from Michigan, yes, from Europe. Private equity does things that the public simply can't do. Private equity will stand up and manage what's now PNM. They've committed to keeping the chairman and the board and the management in New Mexico. If we look at the long-term future of how to meet the electrical needs of our state, it needs, well, let's look at the immediate five-year term. We need another $3.5 billion simply to meet the existing New Mexico Energy Transition Act, $4.5 billion. After that, we will need multiple billions of dollars to sustain the growth of electrical generation and distribution. So I urge you to support this effort. Thank you.
Next, we have Kuveni Skankin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This room is filled wall to wall. There is a line stretching out of this building. Only one guy has spoken in proposition to this acquisition in the last entire 2 hours. The public opinion is clear. Blackstone out of New Mexico. My name is Kuveni Scanlon. I'm a longtime resident of Albuquerque, a voting citizen and an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I am here to express my and my community's deep opposition to Blackstone acquiring PNM. Blackstone is attempting to position themselves as a monopoly in the energy sector. As we all know, Blackstone is also heavily involved in unethical renting practices. If this acquisition was to go through, Blackstone would have control over electric grid modernization in New Mexico, funds allocated towards earth-saving renewable energy, and the decision to support behemoth power consumers such as the AI data center currently being built in Las Cruces. As a private equity firm, Blackstone has no interest in the well-being of poor working-class people in New Mexico or elsewhere. Blackstone has demonstrated this through their unethical and appalling business decisions of the past, such as soaring rent hikes in family and student apartments, evictions, and supporting gentrification all over the U.S. Furthermore, Blackstone has demonstrated their utter disregards towards morality and humanity through their billions of dollars of investments in Israeli property and technology development. We as a country are well aware of the pitfalls of privatization of our energy grids. Puerto Rican people have spent weeks in the dark with no way to charge their phones or operate basic appliances due to the money-hungry strategies of privatization of their energy grid. Blackstone is making empty promises to New Mexicans without any proof that they will fulfill these promises. Us, the working people of Albuquerque, demand that Attorney General of New Mexico, Department of Justice, and NMPRC say no to this acquisition by Blackstone and no to privatization for profit. Do we have any representatives from Blackstone here today? All right, that's what I had to say.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have, please no clapping. Next, we have Angelina Crowley.
Hello, I'm Angelina Crowley. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm a carpenter.
I'm joining the many different people, working class people who took time out of their busy lives to come in this crowded room where this is honestly already feeling very undemocratic and like disregarding the public's time and energy. It's not that we need more meetings in a crammed room. We need y'all to listen to the overwhelming majority and vote no. We're rejecting Blackstone. I mean, it's like, it's such a minority that's supporting this that people are coming out here to say no to it. And the investment in green energy and the stuff we need is already possible. We need to take the power away from big oil. We need to make investments in green energy, but it needs to be truly publicized and socialized. We don't want to move towards a bigger private equity from what we have. If anything, we should be moving towards making it public and more affordable and lowering it for people. New Mexico, we're done being a dumping ground and having huge corporations and private interests just totally disregard our comment. So I just want to say it's a huge slap in the face if you don't vote no and like listen to all of the people who are so clearly telling you, because I don't know, there's just too much of that here in our state and it's exhausting sometimes, but people still come out to oppose it. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Corey Scales. Do we have Corey Scales? Okay. Asa Kearns.
Asa. It's Asa. Good afternoon. My name is Asa Kearns. I'm an Albuquerque resident. I've been with PNM for years. I'm going to add my voice to the very many in this community who are opposed to this acquisition. Historically speaking, private equity acquisitions result in worse results for the consumers. We get higher prices and less accountability. You can look next door at Texas. Most of their good is privately owned. They have higher rates than us, and their power goes out every winter like clockwork when there's a storm. Public utilities belong in public hands, not in the hands of private investors. So I'm calling on you to oppose this acquisition by any and all means necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Lawrence Clevisado.
Lawrence Clevisado.
Clevisado. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for opening for comment and listening to us commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Lawrence Clevisado. I am a 64-year-old native New Mexican who's lived in Albuquerque for 36 years now. And I have concerns about Blackstone in particular buying PNM. The proposed buyout, as many have already said, will put PNM in the hands of the world's largest private equity firm. Stephen Schwarzman, the CEO of Blackstone, has heralded the coming of the AI as representing the fourth revolution of humanity, and he seeks to put Blackstone as one of the top innovative companies in reshaping the world. By owning both the supply and the demand side of the equation, they position themselves as unrivaled decision makers. Blackstone's leadership finances right-wing politicians who derail regulatory policies designed to keep rogue corporations in check. And in addition, they lobby themselves and hire lobbyists to influence Trump, the Pentagon, and the State Department. Blackstone seems to believe that it, not the voters, should determine public policy. Through this last year, we've seen the impacts on our society by power brokers and large corporate interests that desire to reshape the country, if not the world. And I strongly advocate for the rule of democracy. This proposal is essentially shifting the cost of infrastructure needed by AI data centers and energy export to the citizens and small businesses of New Mexico. The digital divide that we already experience due to the overwhelming poverty in New Mexico will ensure that the people paying these increased rates will not receive the benefits of those AI data centers. I'm fortunate enough not to have to make the decision whether I feed my family, pay my rent, get needed medical care or medications, or pay my utility bills. With Blackstone's predatory practices, I'm concerned that the elevated disconnect rate would mirror the eviction rate that they're demonstrated in the housing market. So I urge this commission to reject this acquisition of PNM. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Patrick Gallegos.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Patrick Gallegos. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Blackstone, as a private equity firm, has no intention of taking acquisition of our public utilities for the benefit of the average New Mexican. Full stop. Their sole purpose is profit, of course, and they're not looking at New Mexico as a potential investment because they care about our well-being. PNM is already partly a private entity, and we do not want control over our energy that should be an entirely public good, democratically distributed to the people of New Mexico, to become further privatized by a massive multinational corporation that has many magnitudes the wealth and power of the entire state of New Mexico. I would implore the Public Regulation Commission to take one major factor into consideration. Due to the massive power and influence of Blackstone, do you all truly believe that you will be able to regulate control of that entity over our electric grid? The PRC is not directly elected by the people. They are appointed by the governor. What is going to prevent Blackstone from lobbying this governor or the next governor to appoint PRC members that make decisions benefiting Blackstone's profits rather than benefiting the average New Mexican? Lobbying is legal in this country, and it's very effective, especially for a $1 trillion investment firm. The job of the PRC is to make our public utilities are made to provide public goods for public welfare. If the PRC lets Blackstone acquire a massive stake in our public goods, what is going to prevent them from putting the cost of their infrastructure projects onto the average consumer? Whether or not Blackstone pumps money in the first couple of years and we don't see the height rakes at first, the regulatory power of PRC will be undermined by when Blackstone decides to build an AI data center, of which is Blackstone's main portfolio right now, and lobbies our governor and local agencies to put the burden of that massive electrical power hike and water consumption onto the average consumer. The state government can modernize the electrical grid. They can do that already. They just don't want to. Invest in renewable energy and protect rate hikes without Blackstone. We don't need Blackstone. We don't need private property to protect our public welfare. We simply don't. Blackstone out, people over profit. And I also want to really quickly say that, you know, what had been said earlier, that we want a difference of opinion. That's great and all, and I understand the comment on redundancy, but this is what you're getting from the public. This is the general unified public opinion, and that's really important. If you're going to hear the same things over and over again, that's important because you're hearing what the people are saying and that they agree on that, right? So I think that we really want to pay attention to the people saying and unifying on a single topic that they agree on, and that we want to make sure our democratic, opinions are heard in this space. And if, Blackstone, this acquisition goes forth, it's very clear that this democracy doesn't work for the people. It works for profit. And that's what we've seen in a lot of other cases as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Iman Andrade. Do we have Iman Andrade here? Okay, we'll move on to Natalie Cappuccini.
No, exactly. I'm like trying to sign up for a website. I literally just read about those.
Can you all hear me? Oh. Well, hello and good evening. My name is Natalie Kapuscinski, and I'm here with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And I believe I speak for many other residents and organization members here today when I tell you we do not want Blackstone having more control over our lives here in the United States in New Mexico. Myself and many other New Mexicans are deeply concerned about Blackstone acquiring PNM and what it means for our future. We are being told that this acquisition will help us, save us, and invest in greener energy and make energy more affordable. But how do we, as residents, believe that a company which buys up large amounts of real estate for profit and actively fights against affordability measures has the people's best interests in mind? We are being fed empty promises which Blackstone has no obligation to uphold. This mega corporation is not on a mission to improve the lives of those who rely on TXNM or their energy needs. They are doing this purely for profits and to elevate their own assets. This Blackstone buying up more and more real estate and investing billions in data centers, we are concerned our energy grid will not prioritize citizens, but rather Blackstone's growing network of profits. Electricity is essential to the daily lives of many of us, and Blackstone has full incentive to raise what we pay in our utilities. He's present with an agreement between Blackstone and the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, which could spell bad news for the cost of electricity bills in the future for everyone. This is not something we support. TXNM needs to stay local if we want to maintain control over our own energy. And have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Kelly Mixon. Do we have Kelly Mixon? Next, we have, we'll move on to the next person, Michael Adams.
Good evening. Thank you for setting time aside to hear comments and concerns from PNM ratepayers today. I'm here to express my deep concern regarding the proposed acquisition of PNM by a private equity firm in any case, but Blackstone specifically. That's because the investment goals of a firm like Blackstone are fundamentally at odds with the regulatory mandate of providing central electric utility service at the lowest reasonable price over a sustained long-term period. These two mandates are diametrically opposed. Short-term interests incentivize them to raise rates which their CEOs and board members and shareholders will profit from. It really seems like Blackstone is considering New Mexico as an energy colony that they can own and control, treating our citizens like a revenue stream, like a copper top battery. They're almost certainly going to raise rates to recoup their investment for financial gain in the long term at the expense of New Mexico ratepayers. They'll build their AI data centers, and then they'll provide no improvements for average consumers. Average rate players like myself, only a locked in higher rate that may last for a generation where we have to pay that off. Unlike PNM, which is required to disclose plans and have public comment, Blackstone's not going to disclose what their true actions and plans are. I think we really only need to look at models that work for New Mexico, like Kit Carson Electric. That co-op got rid of their fossil fuels, they reduced their energy rates, and they expanded their generation using our state's abundant natural resources, sun and wind, providing local, accountable, renewable-focused management, proving that that's possible. I asked the Public Utility Commission a central question. Do we want our hard-earned money siphoned out of state to profit Wall Street? I hope not. I don't want to let Blackstone have no transparency, no accountability, no long-term interest in the energy security for New Mexicans like myself. Please vote no to protect New Mexico. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Carol Miller.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for giving us the time to make public comments in this very important issue. I think just to summarize, there have been so many people who don't really want the rates to go up, and it seems that they will. And also, something that's been emphasized is the bad character. And it kind of reminds me of the Avangrid case as well, is that the people are very concerned about the history, the reputation of not just that it's a private equity firm, but their reputation. They just don't have a very good track record, which has been said. One thing I'd like to emphasize a little bit more is Blackstone's interest in building the AI data centers. And they seem so tied in with the AI data centers that this is why the rates are going to go up. This is why the environmental harm is going to happen. They're all in on AI data centers and expanding the fossil fuel and water use at utilities and companies around the world. And they want to power new hyperscale data centers, all subsidized by utility ratepayers. And I think it's the AI data centers that are going to send things soaring, the costs. And also New Mexico's air, water, overall environmental health will suffer tremendously. And so will the New Mexicans' quality of life if AI data centers are allowed to be built, especially without critical oversight, which seems to be maybe the case. So again, I thank you for giving us an opportunity to express our opinions.
Thank you for your comment. Jeff Selesky. Do we have Jeff Selesky? Okay, we'll move on to next we have Melora Palmer. After that, it'll be Sally Beers.
Good evening. My name is Melora Palmer. I want to turn that off. I want to thank the PRC for accepting public comment and also for opening up other sessions for public comment. I am a New Mexico resident. I moved back here. I'm actually a UNM alumni. I moved back here in 2017 with my daughter because after 25 years living overseas, Mexico, my home for the rest of my life. I'm very concerned about this acquisition and would ask the PRC to deny the acquisition of Blackstone. Blackstone ownership will result in crushing rate increases for New Mexico families, including my own, and small businesses stealing our resources and our futures. It will entail the massive expansion of generation, transmission, and distribution infrastructure paid for us, but not for our benefit. As we've already heard many times, there may be a short-term rate credit, but there will be no rate freeze. And so it's been the history of Blackstone, which has been demonstrated here over and over, that they will increase rates over time. Blackstone has shown that they will say whatever they need to do to get what they want, but their reputation shows differently. Blackstone already has a long record of exploiting people, employees, and communities to extract extreme profit. From housing to healthcare, Blackstone, one of the largest private equity firms in the world, is known for its cutthroat business practices, raising prices, exploiting workers, even children, and competition. Their priority is to generate extreme profits for its wealthy investors. I ask that PRC keep PNM in the hands of the residents, not out-of-state billionaires, and consider PNM as a publicly owned cooperative utility. Thank you.
Thank you. Sally Beers, and then Richard Hamill.
Hello, thank you for this meeting. My name is Sally Beers, and I really don't have a whole lot more to say other than the 40 people that were in front of me opposing this. And I beg you to please deny Blackstone's application to buy out PNM. It seems clear with 40 people and 3 opposing, and look at all the people outside and outside in the hallway, and not that many people even knew about this. And look at the turnout, and people are not happy with this, and it's not a good idea at all. So I'm just saying, please consider it very deeply and deny the acquisition. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Richard Hamill, and then after that, Jim Chenoweth, and then Richard Johnson.
And it's Hample, Richard Hample.
Oh,
and yeah, and thank you for listening to all of us, all the views that you've been hearing. I've been wondering just what are the benefits of this acquisition for me as a New Mexican and for the rest of the people in this room? It seems like Blackstone is what we might call a poor player, really only interested in their own profits and maybe not the interests of a lot of people they seem as a public utility owner then to be serving. I just wonder what their interests really are in getting into this field. A public utility is what for years electric companies were in this country, and over time they have become privatized. But I still think we in New Mexico should consider what a public utility could be. And I know we have quite a lot of money in our rainy day fund that would help make that a reality. And I don't see why that's not even on the table being heard at all in this room or being discussed, because just giving over this company to this bidder really isn't showing much imagination towards our long-term goals. And I have children in this state, and I'd like to see them be able to afford reasonable rates on electricity and not see it be going just to somebody else's, or the rates going up and seeing someone profit from that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Next, we have Jim Chenoweth, and then Richard Johnson. We have Jim Chenoweth. Okay, we'll go with Richard Johnson. After that, we have Jasper Hardesty.
Thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Richard Johnson. I'm a lifetime resident of Albuquerque for 70 years. I've been reading up on artificial intelligence, and apparently it is expected to create products that will require large amounts of energy. That plus the increase with electric car use and normal growth in the system are going to put a huge strain on the electric grid, and probably very rapidly. I see this as an opportunity for the state of New Mexico to become a major player in green energy production. We have plenty of wide open spaces for solar installations in several areas where wind farms are economical. If we can become known as a major electric power producer, both wholesale and domestic, we can hopefully replace the tax base we will lose as we phase out gas and oil production and attract energy businesses into the state, providing high quality jobs, high paying jobs, as well as additional tax revenue that would come with them. Unfortunately, electric facilities are very expensive. It will require a lot of money to build an electric system that is robust. The state. I'm not really a fan of holding companies in general, but I think in this case, the influx of capital and greater financial stability would be beneficial to the state. New Mexico has always been very dependent on federal money with labs and military bases, etc. The one thing New Mexico can offer back is huge amounts of clean green energy. Therefore, I'm in favor of the acquisition. Honestly, I hadn't researched Blackstone itself as much as I've heard here.
I'm sorry.
But I think
What's going on?
we need capital investment to be able to become a major player in green energy. Otherwise,
But the
as
thing
our
is
tax
that-
base disappears from gas and oil, we'll be in a world of hurts. AI, I think, is coming, like it or not. It's going to generate some of what they're predicting. I mean, virtually everybody's saying it's going to be an energy hog, if you will. I think we need to get ahead of the curve, and it's going to take capital to do that. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Jasper Hardesty and then Chris Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Jasper Hardesty. I'm an architect, engineer, scientist, and like yourselves. Oh, I thought I was. Thank you. My name is Jasper Hardesty. I'm an architect and engineer, scientist, and like yourselves, I also serve on a different New Mexico State Commission. I'd like to add a little bit of context and some numbers possibly to some of the points people are raising. We all know that Blackstone has very deep pockets. And we all know that New Mexico does not have those same deep pockets. And while I am absolutely sure that this commission and others do their very best in regulating all of the entities that we work with, Blackstone will use its formidable army of lawyers and businessmen to overwhelm the attempts that we would have in this state to try to keep them under control. A few other things are in response to what other people have said. Some context: the $11.5 billion deal that we were looking at for Blackstone to acquire Texas, New Mexico is a 16% bonus for its executives and its shareholders beyond the valuation of that company. Meanwhile, if you look at the sum total of all of the incentives that Blackstone claims to be providing for the ratepayers and for economic development, that's only 1.5 or even less than 1.5% of that 11.5 billion. So there's some context there. They're only to give 16% to the shareholders and 1.5 payers. And that's over a 4-year period to the ratepayers. And that's with no rate ceiling guarantees. So there's a little context for people to consider. We all know also that QTS is the largest developer of data systems, which is owned by Blackstone. And again, for numbers and context, the amount of energy that just one hyper facility would use is about the equivalent of, what would I have here? About the equivalent of Santa Fe. Of all the energy that Santa Fe uses would be this amount for just one hyper facility. They also use the same amount of water that would take away the water from every man, woman, and child, and cat and dog in the cities of, let's see, Socorro or Ruidoso or Los Alamos. So there's a lot of resources that we don't really have here in New Mexico to be giving away to people for their own profit.
I want to thank you for your comment. Your time has expired.
Thank you much.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Chris Jones, and then
Blackstone takeover, relinquish my time.
thank you, sir. Next, we have Steve Shapiro. And after that, David Crosley.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to take our testimony. My name is Steve Shapiro, and I live in Cedar Crest, and I'm a retired teacher living on a fixed income. When I first heard about the possible sale to Blackstone and about how it would provide the necessary resources and develop green energy, it sounded like a good thing. But the more I've looked into it, the more it seems like a really bad deal, for New Mexico. I think it's for a number of reasons. The first is with PNM getting 16% over the valuation of the company, it's no wonder they want, that's a good deal for them. But is it a good deal for the people of New Mexico? Because how's Blackstone going to make that money back? They're going to make it back from our ratepayers. As we've heard, with the almost 10% guarantee on their equity investment, the more they spend, the more they build, the more we have to pay. And a lot of that building will clearly go into providing access for the AI data centers at our expense. Blackstone already has a long track record of exploiting people, employees, and communities to extract extreme profit, not just, reasonable profit. And, as the saying goes, if someone tells you who they are, believe them. So I think there's, one example, I think as Blackstone is now getting into electricity, which seems like a good market for them. PNM is the first utility they're trying to buy outright. But in Indiana, it bought a 20% stake in NIPSCO in 2020. And local news reports show that that NIPSCO already charges more for electricity than any other utility company in Indiana. And I think you'll find other examples of that, if you look into it. And the other thing, and people point to this, but I'm really concerned that you all don't have the capacity to regulate a company of this size. I think your annual operating budget is something you would know, something like 19 million.
I want to thank you for your comment. Your
But
time is expired.
Blackstone's revenue is, far surpasses that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comment. Next, we have David Crossley. And then after that, Thomas Petty.
Good evening, commissioners, and good evening, New Mexico citizens. My name is David Crossley. I am a resident of Sandia Heights and a PNM customer. A couple of weeks ago, I attended the PNM hearing at the City Commission regarding their proposal for a new substation on Paseo del Norte. To say that meeting became contentious would be generous. During the meeting, the representative from PNM and asked about the Blackstone purchase. The answer was from PNM. PNM is not being purchased by Blackstone. Now, if you look at the nuanced semantics of that statement, it may be true because it is not a finalized deal yet. But clearly that answer was given to distract public attention from this deal and public scrutiny of it. Now, the fact that they thought that was a productive thing to do should all by itself, that they used this subterfuge, be sufficient for you to say no to this deal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Okay, once again, I'm going to ask, please no reacting. Let's just hear public comment.
Good evening. Thank you, Commission, for listening today, and I hope you are listening today. I'll start out by saying I'm here to urge the Commission to reject Blackstone's bid to buy out New Mexico and thereby to sell out the people of New Mexico. My name is Thomas Hetty. My father was Dr. Farrell Hetty. He was president. I've lived here since 1967 when I was 12. My father, Dr. Farrell Hetty, was president at the University of New Mexico from 1968 to 1976. He was a co-founder of the field of comparative public administration. He had a textbook that was used for 30 or 40 years. So I have heard details that horrify me already tonight. And I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to say that I hope that you will live up to your name as being a public regulatory commission, the New Mexico Regulatory Commission, and that you will protect the interests of the people of New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Next, we have Lauren Poole. And then after that, James Shanley.
Hello, my name is Lauren Poole. I'm born and raised in New Mexico. I talk in front of people all the time, but watching, everybody so eloquently frame these very well-studied arguments really humbles me. So primarily I'm a bartender and that's how I get paid, but I'm also a performer, actor, musician, touring musician. So I've toured all over the country in my, with my band, primarily up and down through the West Coast. Everything I'm about to say is like pretty anecdotal and it might ramble and I'll watch the time. All this is to say, I'm scared. I'm so scared. I mean, the way we are seeing, obviously I pose this, I think, maybe not. The way we are seeing consolidation and monopoly on services, air traffic, or air travel, healthcare, it's not going well. It's not getting better. It's not making things better. Last year, my bandmates, or a couple years ago, my bandmate's mom has been a physician, PA at a rural clinic in Los Lunas for around 20 years. And a little company called United Healthcare, or a subsidiary of which, promised them when they were buying out the clinic, guys, you're going to get more money. You're going to work less hours. Can you guess what happened? Didn't work that way. She got paid a little bit more. She got a raise, but she's working 12-hour days instead of 8-hour days. We're not everybody in the state is poor, but by and large, we are a state with a lot of poverty. And I think it's really arrogant that they want to, everyone that's in favor of this deal so far. I don't believe that people that don't share my point of view are malintended. I think everybody's doing the best they can. And the people that I've heard say they're in favor of this deal seem to be in favor because they want this investment in our infrastructure, these scraps that they're dangling in front of us. How do you think wife beaters get a new wife all the time? They're charming, right? They tell women or whatever, men beaters, these people that will abuse and extract different industries, different interpersonal relationships. They tell you what you want to hear and it sounds good. I mean, guys, we're counting on you. We need a win. Please, 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 please listen to us and say no. It does not, we don't have to sell it to them. Just because Zillow's trying to buy my house, I don't have to let them buy it. Please, please. Thank you for your time.
All right. Okay, do you need a break? Yes. Yes, okay. Our stenographer who is transcribing needs a break because we have to transcribe this.
Can you set a timer?
We're gonna pause for 10 minutes and then we'll keep going.
Can I just sit here?
Yes.
Save another trip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll get started again. All right, let's keep going with our public comments. Sir, please state your name and provide your comment. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for this public hearing. My name is James Shanley. I have been connected to Albuquerque since 1969 and a continuous resident since 2006. I am the vice president of the District 7 Coalition of Neighborhood Associations, and I have spent much of the past year observing and documenting along a number of the major corridors of Albuquerque the negative consequence of surrendering key elements of our economy to out-of-state category dominant corporations. In that context, the proposal to transfer ownership of PNM, a vital public utility, to Blackstone represents a potential endorsement not of democratic capitalism, but of 21st century neo-feudalism. Blackstone has a fiduciary obligation to earn on investment to its shareholders, and it rewards and incentivizes its fund managers to deliver on that obligation. It does not prioritize customer satisfaction. New Mexico is a state phenomenally endowed with potential to lead in the transition from carbon-based energy to solar, geothermal, and other technologies. Electricity will be the currency of that transformation. Obtaining capital to invest in its realization does not require handing over the keys, control, and ultimate benefit to an out-of-state shark pool of the ultra-wealthy, of whom few are New Mexicans. It is imprudent to consider surrendering ownership of electrical power, generation, and transmission in New Mexico to an out-of-state entity, much as it would be to surrender rights and ownership of water or air. If PNM was not a prize, Blackstone would not be trying to buy it. The shareholders of TXNM are undoubtedly thrilled by the personal financial windfall which will accrue to this acquisition. The electricity ratepayers of New Mexico, on the other hand, will mourn their further subjugation to the whims and arbitrary extraction of their money by an entity headquartered in New York. I urge you to resist and reject the temptation to permit this acquisition. Failure to do so will only further fulfill the dystopian projections of Thomas Piketty in 2013 that unregulated concentration of ownership will produce a society of serfs. Thank you.
Please, no reacting. We have not much time left, and we want to be able to get through more of this comment. So next we have Scotty Romberg, and then after that, somebody named Heather, and I can't read the last name. I'm sorry. It might be a C, an O, but Scotty Romberg, please.
Chair Aguilera, everybody has mentioned some of the things that I would have said. I just, as a public citizen, as a resident of New Mexico for over 50 years, I ask you not to support Blackstone purchasing our public utility.
Thank you for your comments. Heather. I can't read the last name, I'm sorry. So, not seeing anybody stand up, we'll move on to Julie Heinzman. Do we have Julie Heinzman? Barbara Grothis? Okay.
There are about 50 people lined up in the hallway.
And then after Barbara, we have Kay Monaco, and then after that, Kathleen Mosley.
Thank you for taking our comments tonight. It is fairly shocking to sit in the audience and listen to the research that our fellow citizens have provided you with about this terrible company that wants to come in here and take over our electric utility. And frankly, what's more terrifying is that you three people are the ones who are going to make the decision for everyone here. We have heard corporate presidents get up here, executives get up here and tell you they're in favor of this, but the citizens are here to tell you no. I am not going to go into the data, although I did do a little looking up to see if these people have paid off regulators. And apparently they are the largest company to receive an SEC fine for failing to produce and keep the electronic records that they are required by the SEC to keep. So just one more piece of a bad puzzle that you all are here to understand from our perspective. I just want to mention that we are in an extinction. This extinction is now being called the fastest extinction of all the previous extinctions. The largest and fastest of which was 252 million years ago, and they are now saying it was 60,000 years. We are at 1,000 to 10,000 times faster than that, which means the extinction could be happening in our own lifetimes. 6 to 60 years is the current projection of science about how this is happening. It is happening in the oceans. It is happening as a result of habitat destruction. And it is happening as a result of these kind of companies coming in and disrupting the land, the water, the air, all of which are contributing to the extinction. So your son, if he lives, will be facing some pretty sad circumstances. And I hope you will take that into consideration when you're making this decision. Thank you again for your time.
Hey, Monaco.
Yes, thank you. I don't think I can be as eloquent as all the people who have spoken before about this, but oh, sorry. I said, I don't think I can be as eloquent as all the people who've spoken before about this. I want to add my comments about the acquisition by Blackstone, and I want to emphasize a couple of things that have been said. One is that a private equity company has a fiduciary duty to its investors, and that fiduciary duty means that they need to maximize profits. And one of the ways to maximize profits is by raising rates in New Mexico. So I think that that's something that the commission should consider as you're considering this. I also would urge you to take your time, to not rush into a decision on this. As you said, there's lots more public comment to be had. But the other thing that can happen in that interim period is that we can really examine closely whether or not the state of New Mexico can afford to acquire these as public utilities. As you know, there is a Senate memorial this session in the legislature to study the acquisition of the utilities, send that to the Legislative Finance Committee, and we'd have a report. I don't know if that Senate memorial is going to pass. At this stage of the legislative session, I kind of doubt that it's going to get through it. But we could still do that. We still have an opportunity to look. We don't have to do this today. You don't have to do this tomorrow. You don't have to do it this year. Put it off until we can weigh whether or not it is in the best interest of New Mexico to own our own utilities and to manage them. We've heard a lot of testimony about how the energy needs of the state are going to increase. That's true. That doesn't mean we can't manage it ourselves. We've done many, many great projects in New Mexico. I too am a native New Mexican. I grew up here. I went to high school here, went to Rio Grande. I went to the University of New Mexico. I went to law school here. I've lived here all my life. And I think we have a duty to the citizens of the state. We're a poor state. Please remember that there are many, many, many people in our state who can't afford a rate increase of even 10 or 20%, much less 50 or 100%. Every month, people lose their utilities because they can't afford the costs. So I just urge you to first not push forward this decision, to listen and listen and listen, because you're going to have rooms full of people coming to talk to you. And we all want you to take your time, not rush into it, give us time to look at other alternatives. Thank you.
Kathleen Mosley. And then after that, Thomas Ajaya.
Okay. Dear Commissioners, my name is Kathy Mosley, a retired community health nurse, master's in public health. Most recently, my job took me around New Mexico as an asthma educator specialist. My stats professor would often start class with the quote, "The best predictor of future performance is past performance." And as a nurse, I know that we have past performance from healthcare regarding private equity. In healthcare, we look at success as measured by access, cost, and outcomes. One important National Heart and Blood Institute, or NHLBI study, showed past performance that we need to consider before repeating mistakes. After private equity acquisition, 49 hospitals assumed by private equity on average reduced salaries and staffing relative to non-acquired control hospitals, notably in the emergency departments and ICUs, which are higher acuity and staffing sensitive areas. This appears to be accompanied also by higher charges. What were the outcomes?
Beneficiaries in or clients, patients in EDs of private equity hospitals experienced 7 additional deaths per 10,000 visits after acquisition relative to control. Decreased capacity to deliver care from less staff could explain shortened ICU stays and increased ED mortality. I suspect that outcome measures of moving from publicly owned utilities to private equity would be consistent with the past performance of healthcare experience. Short-term profit based on decreased staff salaries and decrease in service quality or outcomes. Deaths in this last scenario in utilities, one could imagine, might be from what we are already seeing in climate change.
Ma'am, I want to thank you for your comment. Your time's expired.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. So next we have Thomas Ajaya. Abeta.
Shame on you, Pat. Shame on you, Greg. Shame on you, Gabriel, for having the audacity to come look us in the eyes tonight while knowing you have made up your mind already. I think you guys are going to fall back on decades of Capitol Hill experience for your lobbying and for your energy experience. That's why Michelle picked you, because since the early 2000s, Gabriel, you've been making decisions on Capitol Hill in favor of these energy companies. Now, I think you have forgotten what you're supposed to do here, and I think that's because NMTX has been putting thousands of dollars into our local elections. Now, I think if they're strapped for cash, maybe they shouldn't be funding all of our city council re-elections and things like that. But I don't know. That's just me. But I think you guys have forgotten your responsibility. So let me remind you from the governor's words herself, who said, it is extremely important that we ensure that tribal voices are considered before the PRC. I think you've forgotten that because you were ordered to put that council together with an executive order. You never did. You never put the council together. You put out applications and tribal voices were never heard because you don't do your jobs, because you're mouthpieces for corporate America. I hope you prove me wrong, but I think the only thing that will is if you have nightmares tonight and the ghosts of corporate lobbying past come to you, onto you, and make your heart grow 3 times bigger. But I think you won't prove me wrong, Gabriel, because you're a coward.
It's 6:43. Let's do it.
Good evening, Honorable Chairperson and members of the Commission. My name is Alexis Perez, and I was born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. As a young New Mexican starting their journey through life, I write to voice my opposition of Blackstone's application to acquire PNM and TXNM. Blackstone is the world's largest private equity firm. They manage over $1 trillion in assets. They own and invest in restaurants, hotels, retail, tech, and energy companies. It's not a secret, Blackstone is heavily invested in data center expansion. These data center facilities require large amounts of electricity and water, which would drive up the cost of these resources. Not only will the demand for energy and water rise, but New Mexico already experienced extreme drought in 2025. Water is sacred. We can't afford to waste precious resources for the profit of Wall Street. I grew up in the South Valley, a thriving community that relies on the water from the Rio Grande to grow food with traditional irrigation methods like acequias. If people can't afford to grow food or warm their homes, we will be forced out of our homes. With inflation driving up costs of food, rent, and overall necessities, I am concerned that if Blackstone purchases PNM, price hikes will drive me and many other New Mexicans out of the state because New Mexico will no longer be affordable. Blackstone has a history of rising grant housing consolidation, particularly in states like California. Private equity firms are not fit for utility companies. They are driven by maximizing profits for investors, not communities they claim to serve. I hope to go to CNM for my electricianal certification. Companies like PNM protect these workers' rights with unions. Blackstone has a reputation for union busting, wage theft, and unsafe working conditions across multiple industries. It is significant to have unions that protect workers' rights. I want to work with a company I know that stands with their community and its workers. This is my future, and I believe the youth have a strong voice when decisions like this are proposed. We will be the ones working on power lines and powering people's homes. I am aware of the financial and environmental dangers these companies bring to our communities. A lot of the decisions made behind closed doors, silencing the voice of community with no real democracy. New Mexico's utility company does not need to be under a private equity firm ownership. It should stay in the hands of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. So commissioners, I'd like to talk about how we should continue this public comment session because we're approaching 7 o'clock. As I mentioned earlier, I'm solo parenting this week. People are taking care of my son. I need to go grab him. So I do need to leave at 7. I think the first option is to have at 7 o'clock recess this meeting. So take whatever comments we can until 7 o'clock, recess this meeting, and then continue next Thursday afternoon. We have an open meeting in this room, and we could have a public comment session after that. And then as well, we also take public comment at all of our open meetings, and we've made it a lot easier. For people to submit written. We can recess at 7 o'clock and then have a continuation of this public session next Thursday, and then we should also consider what additional public comment.
How would that be? How would that be?
So we have probably about 5 discussion items that we need to take care of. I imagine we probably would be ready by 2 or 3 to maybe, yeah.
Can you maintain today's sign-in sheet?
We can do that, yeah. Yeah, it's unclear if people will be able to make it, but I think that's a fair way to do it. Commissioners, are you able to? Yeah. Commissioners, are you able to? Or what do you think of that idea about recessing at 7 and then continuing?
A lot of people took off of work.
Yeah,
Right? We should make it later in the evening.
I can't make it next week.
Okay, please
Listen,
Please.
seeing what's happening, you need to stay, make those arrangements. Tell the neighbors that you're gonna be late. This is priority.
Okay,
Maybe a close the lights. Plain and simple. A bigger space too. We need a bigger space.
Can I do my nice speak before I have to leave, before this meeting ends? I can't make it next week.
Yeah. Yeah. How many people are left on the planet? Yeah.
so we still have a lot of people left on the sign up sheet. We haven't even gone through half of our people signed
I'd like
up.
to speak on the behalf of the youth in Mexico. I haven't seen that many youth speak up tonight, and so I would like to do that.
Okay, well, we'll take your comments, sir, and then we'll take 2 additional ones, and then we'll recess and continue next Thursday.
Alrighty, thank you so much for letting me speak. I've lived in Albuquerque and New Mexico my whole life. I watched my parents struggle to pay their P&M bills years before I even had to pay mine. The rising prices of food, school, gas, everything in New Mexico is just causing us not be able to afford anything. I know people my age who can't even afford an apartment. No, and I know my parents can't support me, so I can't live with them like a lot of people. So we can't even pay our own apartment. We can't pay our rent. We can't pay our food, our groceries, and the jobs in New Mexico don't even pay us enough to afford these things. And now Blackstone wants to come into our state and capitalize on our power and push $3.4 billion on the homeowners who can't even afford that to begin with. I know a lot of homeowners are elderly and they can't pay that. They're on fixed rates. And us youth in New Mexico, we don't even see a future here because we can't even afford houses that are bought and owned by Blackstone. So what are we supposed to do if they come and buy our power? Are we supposed to just move? What are we going to do? There aren't really any options. And I know in the bill that they're also trying to change the rates on solar. So even if they do end up buying the power, how are we supposed to mitigate that with either solar or moving out of the state? Now, I would like to raise a family here because I've, again, born and raised in Albuquerque, and I really love it here. The nature, the rivers, the lakes, it means a lot to me and to a lot of people in this room. And if we can't afford that because Blackstone wants to just squeeze our pockets until we have nothing left, what is the whole state supposed to do? Just move? We can't afford that. And they own, stakes in realty, in the housing market, in health, in veterinarian clinics, and we just can't afford our pockets to be squeezed any further. And I know myself, I can't raise a family in a state where I'm expecting my power bill to go up 40, 80, 100% the moment they sign. And I just can't do that anymore. I know a lot of families in New Mexico can't even pay that. And I watched my parents struggle before this even, this bill became proposed. So if we continue to let, the youth of New Mexico pay for all the mistakes of these corporations and stuff that just want to come in and suck out the natural resources of New Mexico, I just don't think that's a good idea. I think we can definitely come up with solutions outside corporations. I know the people here in this room and the people of New Mexico would love to come up with solutions that benefit us, the people, and not these big corporations who want more money in their pockets. And that's all they care about is money. So I'm against the proposal and the acquisition of PNM by Blackstone. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that the youth in New Mexico doesn't like this either. Thank you.
So the next comment we'll take is Margaret Lopez.
I'd like to make a comment on behalf of New Mexico, behalf of youth, on behalf of unemployment, if I'm so inclined.
We have Margaret Lopez, who's.
I would like to speak up for the seniors of New Mexico as well, if you have just a moment.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to everybody who's made a comment here tonight because you have provided ample evidence about why this is a terrible idea, the acquisition of PNM by Blackstone. I'm a customer of PNM, just like everybody else in this room. And I've listened, like I hope you've listened, to the completely ample evidence explaining why this is a terrible idea and a disaster waiting to happen. A disaster for New Mexicans, not for the shareholders of Blackstone. Those who've been in the state a long time will understand exactly what I mean when I say we've already witnessed the mental health system in our state get Susana Martinez, and we do not now want to watch the utility system in our state get Blackstoned. The PRC in Texas has already made the error of approving this application. We are here asking you not to make that same mistake. We're asking you to vote no against this acquisition of PNM and TXNM by Blackstone. Instead, we need to be seeking better full public ownership solutions or more appropriate partners to work with PNM to fully leverage the over 300 days of sunshine we enjoy in New Mexico to become the fully solar first state in the nation. Thank you.
Yeah, sir, come on up and then we'll take, well, one last person. Ma'am, I think you, yeah.
Thank you for having me. Your name? My name is David Witchman. I'm a 19-year-old. I am here on the behalf of both NM Climate and New Mexico State University, and I have a few things to say. My name is David Witchman. Today, I, as well as many others on the behalf of New Mexico, stand firmly opposed to the proposed acquisition of PNM by Blackstone, because this deal asks New Mexicans to surrender long-term control of our energy future in exchange for short-term promises that simply don't add up. PNM is more than a utility. It is public trust. It powers our homes, our businesses, and our transition to cleaner energy. Turning that responsibility over to one of the world's largest private equity firms, whose primary obligation is to private equity firms and generate rapid returns for investors, and creates a fundamental conflict with public interest. New Mexicans need stable rates, transparent decision-making, and long-term investment in the local infrastructure. Private equity ownership has a track record across the country of cutting costs, reducing staff, and prioritizing profit over reliability. That is not a risk we should be taking with someone as essential as electricity. We also have to consider the broader implications. New Mexico is working hard to expand renewable energy, strengthen our grid, and build a resilient economy. Those goals require steady, accountable stewardship, not a corporate structure designed to buy, extract value, and eventually sell. This acquisition would shift power away from the people who live here and toward investors who don't. And once that control is gone, we don't get it back. For those reasons, I urge regulators, community leaders, and fellow New Mexicans to reject this deal. Our energy future should be shaped by those who call the state home, not by distant financial interests. Thank you for having me.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Curley. I am Dine, Kenya Ani Nishlakit Lechini Bushishi, Nakaina Dashiche Ado Hanagani Dashanele. I have been here, my bloodline has been here since time immemorial. I am also a PNM ratepayer based in Santa Fe, and I am opposing the acquisition of PNM. For far too long, New Mexicans have had paid the price for billionaire and millionaire takeover and infiltrators. We will not have closed doors. We must not have closed door deals with corporate gangsters. I'm here to speak directly to the hearts of those that have the power to deny this application. The Public Regulatory Commission, not the private regulatory commission. We, the people, have the answers to solve the energy and financial crisis. We do not need a buyout from billionaires. We have the young minds and the wisdom of our elders to create a transition to a world where in harmony with Mother Earth and all of her creation. We cannot continue to have corporate gangsters monopolize our world. We cannot risk our lives and our livelihood for Blackstone, a black-hearted, black-blooded beast. We must not only diversify public comment, but by diversifying this pre-selected PRC commission. As an Indigenous person, we are first in time and we are first in right. We are demanding, not asking, for all New Mexican protections, and we are also demanding the rejection of the Blackstone application. Our lives and land are worth more than Blackstone could ever afford. We matter. Our children's future matters. New Mexicans matter. Our water, our air, and our land matter. And when we cannot pay our bills, crime rates go up. Our children starve and our elders worry. When will they pay their next bill? When will they have medication? This application is an application to kill. I can't have for your time.
Yeah, members of the commission, my name is Victoria. And I'm speaking Victoria Judy, and I'm speaking on behalf of Youth United for Climate Crisis Action. We're a statewide movement of young people fighting for a just transition and a future beyond fossil fuels. I'm here to urge you to reject Blackstone's proposal to purchase PNM. Since 2019, Yucca has been organizing to imagine what youth-led energy democracy might look like here in New Mexico. Blackstone's attempt to buy our state's largest electric utility represents the exact opposite of this long-term vision. Blackstone's short-term promises risk our long-term energy future. If the PRC allows this purchase to go forward, youth will bear the burden of this decision for generations to come. Yucca is made of members from frontline communities impacted by ongoing extraction, and we viscerally understand the reality of having our resources exploited for corporate gain, while our communities are tossed to the side as collateral damage. This buyout would mean crushing rate increases for families that are already suffering from increasing inflation. Blackstone has offered PNM's captive customers a rate credit that comes out to about $3.51 a month for the average residential customer. And this is hardly enough to even buy a fast food meal, which is an insulting supposed benefit. Even worse, without a rate freeze, what's stopping Blackstone from filing a rate increase once the deal closes? This is the epitome of empty promises. As a private equity firm, Blackstone limits community public participation, oversight, and transparency. Our public utilities should serve the people. So I have to ask, is the public interest better served by handing over control to the largest corporate private entity firm in the world that has no reason to prioritize transparency, affordability, or the well-being of our communities? Over 500,000 New Mexicos depend on PNM's electric services. We want an environmentally sound, affordable, and democratic energy system, not a disempowering corporate takeover of our essential utilities. Blackstone is not welcome in New Mexico. Let me remind you, the Public Regulation Commission, of your duty. It is to, quote, serve New Mexico by ensuring safe operations, reliable utility services at a fair, just, and reasonable quote. Reject Blackstone's purchase, please. Thank you.
We were anticipating a lot of public comment, and you all really delivered. I mean, the number of people here, it's clear that you understand the significance of the case and don't appreciate being disrespected, but I understand that where you're coming from. I understand that this is important and that you know it, and I appreciate your engagement. So,
like it's something that was minimal, but
so we are off the record and we're recessed until next Thursday.
disrespected.